Hey guys, so for this video I wanted to go ahead and share with you my Yale supplemental essays, which are basically a collection of a few essays that Yale invites you to write as you apply to that school. And they range from anywhere from like 50 words to 250 words, so it's really broad, and as you apply it can be kind of, I guess, disorienting, confusing to try and make something out of these prompts that seem very open-ended but also very narrow. Like, you have to talk about what motivates you, but in only like 50 words. It's just really hard to convey it, and so it can be helpful to see examples of what other students do, especially students that got accepted, to like really express themselves in those short word counts. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and read off my supplementals to you, and yeah, so I guess we will go ahead and do that now. Alright, so the first supplemental that I wrote is one that's across a lot of different other college applications, and it's the why do you want to study this question, you know, like why do you want to pick this major? And the way that Yale phrases it is they say, why do these areas appeal to you? And then you get to list your top 3 majors and then describe it in about 100 words. And so I'll go ahead and share with you basically what I wrote. So the 3 majors I selected were ethics, politics, and economics, which is all kind of one major, and then political science, and then architecture. My 100-word kind of explanation why is as follows. Bike lanes that cost $12 million per mile. Bertha, a tunnel boring machine stuck for 2 years. A failed levy on big companies intended to fund affordable housing. Seattle has its share of policy headaches. Raised in the backyard of America's fastest growing city, my interests have been heavily influenced by urban policies. While meeting with planners who work for the city of Seattle and hearing about their dynamic, interdisciplinary work as liaisons between city council, residents, and developers, I practically had goosebumps as I realized I had found my passion. Political science serves as a great educational foundation for this specialty. So that was kind of a cut and dry little essay, but it was definitely something that I guess was a bit more storytelling-ish and kind of showed about really like why I'm interested in what I want to study. It was definitely just being authentic to just sharing that, I guess. That was the reason why I wanted to tell it that way rather than just be like, oh, I love history, or oh, I love studying this in school, because that's also very true, but also I wanted to talk about kind of the practical, I guess, application of that, or also just like the out of school context for my academic interests, if that makes sense. So the prompt for the next supplemental that they asked me to write is, what is it about Yale that has led you to apply? And that's 125 words or fewer. And I guess I'll just go ahead and read it now. I live in the millimeter-wide overlap of a Venn diagram. At church, with friends and in AP classes, I'm always half in and half out because some element of my identity sticks out. Community is just not quite a reality when no one else lives on your block. However, Yale makes its home in that awkward space. Engaging in rich discussion about the intersection of religious and LGBT topics over dinner at Holy Queer, developing friendships with people who understand the struggle of being gay and Latino through De Colores, meeting and growing alongside other brothers in Christ by joining Beta Upsilon Chi. I don't know how to pronounce that. When Yale moves in, it brings an entire neighborhood with it. So yeah, that was one that kind of, I guess, pulled from my common application, which I will link in another video, probably in the description. And yeah, that essay, that was kind of the focal point of my application. Talks a lot about my identity, and so I wanted to tie that into then why Yale makes sense as kind of like a puzzle piece that my identity can fit into. Because these colleges really want to see how you're going to be present on campus, and so I tried to list a few organizations to show that I've done my homework on the school, but really also just get at why I felt that I was a good fit, not just because of the activities I do or the things I want to study, but also just because of how I fit in with Yale's mission and culture as a school in and of itself. And so now we're going to get into another portion of supplementals that are kind of like supposed to be the fun ones, the one that really gets at who you are, like your personality, fun stuff like that. And these essays are all pretty short. You have to write them in like 50 words or less. I think the exact amount is 200 characters, and so it's definitely really hard to get anything unique across in something so short, but I tried to make the most amount out of it, so I guess I'll just go ahead and share that with you. So the first question is, what inspires you? And I said this. A boy plays in the mud. but in his eyes the dirt mounds are volcanoes, the trickling water lahars and pyroclastic flows. In my young mind, anything was a sandbox to explore. It continues to be. This was just kind of actually something I remember from when I was really little. I went on a camping trip with my mom over to Mount St. Helens, and we went up to the observatory and learned all about the earthquake and eruption, all this stuff, and I loved playing in the mud, and I recreated all this stuff. It's just that idea of playing with representations of land is kind of weird, but it's something I continue to do through playing with clay and making islands and the continents and all this stuff, through making huge maps and creating my own countries and all this stuff when I was in 3rd grade, through then getting obsessed with Minecraft and all this stuff when I was in middle school, and then now finally going into interest in government and stuff, and urban planning and maps and stuff. It's just a weird fascination, so it just felt kind of natural to reflect that in this little 50 or 35 word snippet. So the next kind of mini supplemental question that Yale asks is kind of the if you could talk to anyone, who would it be and why question, and they phrase it a bit uniquely. They say it as Yale's residential colleges regularly host conversations with guests representing a wide range of experiences and accomplishments. What person, past or present, would you invite to speak, and what conversation would you ask? Anyway, so I guess I'll go ahead and just read my response right here. Are we doing a good job? I stare John Winthrop down as I await his response. 2.3 million Americans incarcerated, 46.7 million in poverty. We must stop and wonder, is America a city upon a hill? So that one was kind of something I actually thought of my junior year as we were studying APUSH and talked about the city upon a hill and this kind of idea of American exceptionalism and all this stuff. Then as I kind of sat writing these college essays over the summer going into my senior year, that kind of stuck with me. This kind of contrasting ideas between the country we want to be, the society we want to be, and the country that we are, and kind of how we make up for that gap is something that really motivates my interest in local politics and all this stuff. And so it just felt kind of apt to put that into my application somehow. And so this conversation with a historical figure kind of fit well, I guess. So the third question is a little interesting, and it took me a long time to figure out what to write for it. The question is, you are teaching a Yale course, what is it called? And I really did not know what to say, but in the end I kind of just put this one down. I said, finding your passion, how to schedule your priorities instead of prioritize your schedule. And so that was something that I guess just kind of reflected where I was at being in the summer going into my senior year, because I was, a cross-country captain, I was on cheer, I was volunteering and had an internship and doing a million different things. And for a lot of junior and senior year, I was just swamped and so busy. And so that was a message that was really important to me, was how to really just use your time wisely, but also do what you actually care about rather than what you feel you have to do. So the fourth mini supplemental is the classic letter to your roommate supplemental, but they do it in really short 35 words. So how they phrase it is they say, most first year Yale students live in suites of 4 to 6 people. What do you hope to add to your suite mate's experience, and what do you hope they will add to yours? And so I went ahead and wrote this. I hate saying thank you. Instead, I write it. Choosing kindness, I hope to write a letter of gratitude a day to those around me next year. A light to my suite mates, I hope they'd be the same to me. That was something that was, I don't know, it was really hard for me to write something. And so I just decided to kind of go with this idea of gratitude, thankfulness, and expressing that, because that's something that's important to me, but also it's something that I feel wasn't really expressed in my application elsewhere. I was talking a lot about my background, my academic interests, the things I do, all this stuff, but I wasn't really talking about my own just how I conduct myself, my own, I guess, just outlook on life. And so I felt that it would be kind of appropriate to kind of tuck it in right here. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the two kind of longer essays that they invite you to write. Each of them are around 250 words, and they give you 3 prompts, and I'm not sure if the prompts change every year or what, but you can choose 2 out of those 3 prompts to address. And so the first one that I chose to address was think about an idea or topic that has been intellectually exciting for you. Why are you drawn to it? I'll go ahead and share it to you now. "Papa, what are those for?" My 7-year-old self pointed to the system of ropes lacing between the rafters of Tia Manuela's living room. "When the river floods and they tie up the furniture," he answered nonchalantly. Although it was only the first week of what would be a 6-month stay in my father's home village in Veracruz, Mexico, I was already surprised by this delicate dance between humans and nature that I never noticed back in the suburbs of temperate Seattle. While obvious in my father's hometown, I now realize this truth is global. We are only guests in our environment, at the mercy of climates and ecosystems, plate tectonics, and tidal patterns. Whether it is bold arrogance or simple-minded naivettes, there is a certain belief among Americans that we have conquered the wild outdoors, as if Mother Nature herself is held on a leash. It is the more recent attempts to live in an increasingly symbiotic relationship with our surroundings, with principles like daylighting and natural cooling being applied into construction, that fascinates me. Since I was 7, my dreams have been filled with self-sustaining floating cities and rooftop gardens. Now, I pore over the designs of a new nearby elementary school, excitedly noticing the implementation of energy-efficient policies I helped my school district develop. It may seem strange as my mother and I share the specifications of compostable toilets and heat pumps for the tiny house she is building. However, sustainability is where my passions lie. And so this essay was kind of getting at my interest in sustainable design and stuff like that, because not only am I interested in going to local politics and urban planning and stuff, but really I think that the most pressing issue, or one of the most pressing issues, is about sustainable planning and stuff like that. And so I wanted to be able to articulate this. And it's definitely something that's really interesting, is how I've been able to kind of grow up simultaneously in kind of two environments, with one being, you know, my main home in Seattle, but also constantly going back to visit my dad's hometown in Veracruz. And so to be able to see those two things, I kind of wanted to be able to articulate that and share that in my essay. So the second question that Yale asks is kind of the, like, what do you do and why question, and how they phrase it is, reflect on your engagement with a community to which you belong. How do you feel you have contributed to this community? And so I went ahead and kind of talked about the activity that takes up the most of my time, which is running, and within that cross country as my kind of like main sport, just because it's something that I've dedicated pretty much my entire high school career to, and something that takes up a lot of my time and energy, and something I just care a lot about. So I wanted to kind of share about that, and I'll go ahead and read what my response was now. Strutting down the aisles of Joann Fabrics, I was on a mission. Cross country is not a spectacle sport. Although my team had nearly 100 people, our meets essentially compared to high-speed bird watching. After years of seeing athletes cram under tents, nibbling granola bars while ignoring the course, I yearned for change. So, fashioning 3 capes from sequin-covered fabric in my school colors, I had a solution. At our first meet of junior year, I offered 2 freshmen to wear the capes and join me in cheering. They agreed with hesitation. However, that disappeared as we began running around, blaring music and shouting our teammates' names. The capes quickly turned into tradition, as at every meet I offered them to different freshmen who eagerly sought to flaunt the stylish look. The energy was infectious. By the end of the season, the tent was nearly empty, with every athlete out on the course cheering for those competing. Capes are special. They create superheroes. As freshmen on my team donned this fabric, they became leaders who transformed a team into a family. After being voted most inspirational and team captain, I realized I did more than simply make capes. I encouraged others to be encouragers themselves. Students only come through every few years. Teachers only stay for so long. It's absurd to think that I could ever be immortalized in my school. But I don't need my name on a record board to have a legacy. I just need some capes. So that was kind of just like a little short and sweet story about why cross country really means a lot to me, and my investment in that team as like a family and stuff like that, because it's really something that I feel very, very true about. You know, I think that my high school experience in many ways has been defined by my involvement on this team. And so just like how talking about my identity and my interests and things I do and all this stuff are important to expressing who I am, it's also just as important to express the activities I do, and more importantly within that, the people that I surround myself with. in order to really convey everything about me on these college applications. Anyway, so the third out of the 3 supplemental questions that they invited me to respond to was this. They said, Yale students, faculty, and alumni engage issues of local, national, and international importance. Discuss an issue that is significant to you and how your college experience might help you address it. And so with these longer supplemental questions, Yale only asked that I respond to 2 of them, so I chose to do the other 2 that I already read responses to and kind of left this one out. The reasoning behind that was that talking about kind of the issues that are most important to me was something that I already echoed a lot through my application. I just felt like it was hit in a lot of other spots that it would be too repetitive to repeat it, and so I decided to leave that one out. Anyway, so yeah, those were my Yale supplemental essays. I hope that they were helpful to you as you try and get some inspiration for writing your own. And definitely feel free to like and comment and subscribe and all that fun stuff so that I can continue putting out more content for you guys to help you with all of your college applications. Feel free to comment any questions down below that you might have, or comment any requests for other kinds of videos you would like to see, because really I just see this whole channel and everything as an opportunity to use my experience to help others, and so I want to be putting out content that's helpful for you. Also, if you would like help writing your supplementals, your college essays, all that fun stuff, feel free to email me. I will put that in the description below. And so yeah, that's all that fun stuff. Still don't have an outro thought out, so yeah, see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bust down, Tatiana. Bust down, Tatiana. I wanna see you bust down. Pick it up, now break that down. Break it down. Speed it up, then slow that down on the gas. Slow it down. Bust it, bust down, bust it, bust it, bust down on the gas.